we're taught that if one person kills another person, that is murder. But if a government kills 100,000 persons, that is patriotism. And they'll say we're disturbing the peace, but there is no peace. What really bothers them is that we are disturbing the war.
I start from the supposition that the world is topsy-turvy, that things are all wrong, that the wrong people are in jail and the wrong people are out of jail, that the wrong people are in power and the wrong people are out of power. I start from the supposition that we don't have to say too much about this because all we have to do is think about the state of the world today and realize that things are all upside down.
History is important. If you don't know history, it's as if you were born yesterday. And if you were born yesterday, anybody up there in a position of power can tell you anything, and you have no way of checking up on it. It's exactly when you're in the midst of a war or about to go into a war that you need your freedom of speech. Lives are at stake. If you are put in fear of speaking out, then democracy has been severely crippled.
When you think of people like Howard, you think of the person who really stands up to authority and understands radicalism in its basic meaning, that is, going to the root of problems and demanding that those problems be confronted.
A life of political engagement is so much more interesting and so much more joyful and comradely than a life of private disengagement and private consumption.
I don't believe it's possible to be neutral. The world is already moving in certain directions. And to be neutral, to be passive in a situation like that is to collaborate with whatever is going on. And I, as a teacher, do not want to be a collaborator with whatever is happening in the world. I want myself as a teacher, and I want you as students to intercede with whatever is happening in the world.
I've always resented the smug statements of politicians, media commentators, corporate executives who talked of how, in America, if you worked hard, you would become rich. The meaning of that was if you were poor, it was because you hadn't worked hard enough. I knew this was a lie about my father and millions of others, men and women who worked harder than anyone. My father had a fourth-grade education and could not read much or do much arithmetic. My mother had gone as far as seventh grade, but her intelligence went far beyond that. She was the brains of the family. We lived in a succession of tenements, sometimes 4 rooms, sometimes 3. Some winters we lived in a building with central heating. Other times we lived in what was called a cold water flat. No heat except from the coal cooking stove in the kitchen. No hot water except what we boiled on that same stove. We 4 boys grew up together, sleeping 2 or 3 to a bed, in rooms dark and uninviting. So I spent a lot of time in the street or the schoolyard, playing handball, football, softball, stickball, or taking boxing lessons from a guy in the neighborhood who had made the golden gloves and was our version of a celebrity.
This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only US network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.